If you're thinking about moving to Vancouver or Clark County, Washington area, you probably have a lot of questions, and today I'm answering those questions for you. Hey, welcome back to the Living in Vancouver and Camas, Washington YouTube channel. I'm your host, Hannah Dubyne, and I'm super thankful you're here today because I'm going over some FAQs, frequently asked questions, for living in or moving to this area. This video is probably more geared towards people that are thinking about moving to the area rather than people that already live there, but we love our local watchers as well, so thank you guys for watching. If you want to know what it's like living in the area and events on the day-to-day every weekend, sign up for our Weekend Happenings with Hannah email. We send it out every week, we handwrite it for you guys, and we promise we won't spam you, so that'll be down below. So I have my list of questions here in front of me on my laptop, and I'm just gonna go through them. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, so I'll just be looking through the list. And if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to drop them down below and I can answer them in a part 3. So some of these are pertaining to a real estate transaction, which you guys probably know by now. I'm a licensed realtor. I help clients buy and sell here in Clark County. And some of them are just related to the area, the culture, the lifestyle, the people, so it's kind of a mix of all of them. The first one I have on my list is, do we have attorneys to close? What kind of attorneys do we use here? Well, if you're asking this question, you're probably from the East Coast, because that's the only spot in the country that still uses attorneys. We don't have attorneys to close here. We actually close with escrow and title companies. So I think it's a much easier process. There's only a handful of escrow and title companies here. There's maybe 5 or 6 that do the majority of business. We have relationships with all of them. They're the middle people that hold the money, but you don't need to get an attorney here. The next question I get all the time, especially from you Californians, is where are the termites and where do I get a termite inspection? Well, you don't need to because we don't have termites here. I've said it many times before and I'll say it again, I have not seen termites before in a house. I'm sure they exist somewhere up here, but I don't sell a ton of super old homes, and that's probably where most of them would show up. We don't have termites. It's not warm enough, I don't think, for them to be here. So if you're worried about pests, more of the pests in our area are gonna be mice or rats, spiders, insects, but it's nothing deadly, nothing that's gonna destroy your house for the most part, unless you have a serious problem with another type of rodent. Another question I get all the time is, Hannah, I want to buy a home in the city on half an acre or an acre. Okay, that's great, but we just don't have neighborhoods that are like that here. We do have a handful of them. They come up every once in a while. I will say they're usually for the more expensive high-end homes, but they're just not widespread. Land here is scarce. It's partially artificially scarce because of the way our county and our state manages land. But most of our homes here, I would say, on average, are on a quarter acre or less. If they were built before the recession, a quarter acre-ish is pretty average. If they were built after the recession, cut that in half and think more like a 5, 6, 7, 8,000 square foot lot. If you want more land in a home, you should go outside of the city and look at rural land. That's what's gonna get you more privacy. The next question I get from time to time is, Hannah, I'm ready to buy a house with you, but I don't want my information on the purchase price of the home to be public. Well, in Washington state, we are a disclosure state, so we report the sale prices of homes to the county. It has to go to the county. There's no way you can hide the purchase price of your home from the public. It's all public knowledge here, which frankly I think is the best way to do it. We have transparency in the market that way. The tie-in question that I get to that first question is, because I don't want the tax office to know what I paid and I don't want my taxes to go up to what I paid for the home. Well, maybe you'd be happy to learn that taxes here are based off of the assessed value of your home, which usually lags behind the real market value. Somewhere between 10 and 20% is usually what I find. Property taxes probably will go up for you every year because property values are increasing here. That's how they're going up, but they're not gonna go up some completely irrational amount. They're not gonna double in a year. I've heard of stories of that happening in places like Texas. But that's what you need to know about disclosing sale prices and taxes in this area. Next question is, does the seller of a home have to patch the holes and paint over them? Or sometimes it's been phrased to me, well, Hannah, of course the seller of the home has to patch up the holes and paint them over and touch up the home before they sell it to me. If it's a resale home, they don't. There's nothing in our contract, which contracts are usually state by state or area by area, that says that sellers have to patch and paint holes. Of course, it's very nice when sellers do that, and we're always appreciative. A nice homeowner will usually do that for you. Just realize if you're buying resale, that's kind of one of the things that comes with buying a resale home. If you want a home that's in perfect aesthetic condition, I would recommend checking out new construction. Another question I've gotten, especially from my awesome California clients, is, Hannah, why are the disclosures so short? This should be like 100 pages long, and why is there only one disclosure? Well, we literally only have one seller's disclosure here. It's like, I want to say 7 pages long, and it's just, you know, all the questions you could think of about the condition of the home, but there's no earthquake disclosure and termite disclosure and all these other disclosures I've heard of from California. We just have one, and that's all we have. And it's kind of a formality here, but you will get it if you buy a home in this state. Next question is, are crawl spaces a secure and safe foundation option for a home? I usually get this question from clients moving from a place where they're on slab. So Arizona, Texas, they all have slab. I think a lot of places in California have slab as well. I could be wrong about that. Slab is literally just concrete, but crawl space is like concrete perimeter, but you can go down under it. And there's like dirt, and then that dirt is covered by a plastic barrier that's black. It's called a vapor barrier. Crawl space is the standard way of construction here in this part of the country, and that has to do with, I believe, the amount of rain that we get and our type of soil. So if we were to build on slab, I think it would just be too moist. So everyone has a crawl space here. If you don't have a crawl space, that's probably worse because there's gonna be less people that are gonna be able to service a house on slab. The next question I have on my list is, Hannah, do people really not use umbrellas? I mean it when I say they really don't use umbrellas. I just don't use an umbrella. It's not that I don't have one. I have umbrellas. I just never see anyone use them, and it's just a thing to put your hood up and wear multiple layers and just kind of like run through the rain. The only time people really use umbrellas here is when they're hanging out, doing something stationary outside. Maybe they're going for a walk at the Christmas lights and, you know, they're outside for a long time, or maybe they're at their kid's soccer game, but other than that, people just don't use their umbrellas here. Another question that's very similar to that one is about the rain. So how much does it actually rain, Hannah? Well, I would say go look at the historical weather reports for an exact answer, because my perception of it might not be what's actually happening. Keep in mind, I've lived in Washington my whole life, but it does not rain every day. It really doesn't. Go look at those historical weather reports. It rains off and on up until I'd say January. You know, January, February, March and April is the more rainy season, but we have days where it rains, we have days where it's just cold, we have a couple days of snow, we have days with sun out, we have days with gray clouds. It's just kind of a mix. Okay, a question about stores that I got was, are there a lot of local businesses or is it all chains? I've heard this many times from my East Coast clients that there's only chain restaurants and stores where they live on the East Coast. And here we're super blessed to have, I think, a good mix. It's not only mom and pop local businesses, but it's also not only chains. And it's a good dynamic. You can get some specialty products or really unique things from those local businesses. We can support people providing jobs, you know, through the local businesses, but we also have access to good priced items through, you know, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Safeway, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, all those typical things that people want. So it's a good mix. The next question on my list is, how close can I be to stores and shops? People are usually asking this if they want to live in the city, somewhere in Vancouver. I would say if you live in the city of Vancouver, you're never going to be more than 5 to 10 minutes away from a grocery store or like mainstay shops. It's just really hard to be further out than that. And there's stores scattered all over. So I absolutely love this about Vancouver. I feel like you're just always close to the amenities that you need. My next question is similar to the last one, and that's, how close will I be to the freeways? Well, I love the freeway system here in Vancouver. am so thankful for it. We have 2 freeways that go north and south, so that would be I-5 and 205. 205 is on the east side, I-5 is on the west side. 205 is newer, I-5's been there a long time. We all know it goes up and down the whole west coast. And then we have 2 going east-west, and that would be SR 500 and SR 14. SR 14 parallels the river, and SR 500 goes kind of right through the middle of Vancouver. And so it makes this square rectangular shape, and so it makes it so that you're not super far from a freeway ever. I would say if you live in the city, you're not going to be more than 10 minutes away at the maximum. You're probably going to be closer to like 7 to 5 minutes away. So it's really, really great. Another super important question I get all the time is, how bad is rush hour traffic? Let me preface by saying I don't sit in rush hour traffic with what I do. I am blessed to be 3 minutes away from my office, and I don't commute over the river to Portland for work. That is where the majority of rush hour traffic happens, not on necessarily this side of the river in Washington, but in Portland and going over the bridges. The bridges are a bottleneck because they just get smaller and they condense all these people trying to come into Washington or trying to go into Oregon. Rush hour in the morning probably lasts from 7 a.m. to 9 or 9:30ish, and then rush hour in the evening I would say is worse. It's 3:30 to 6:30, 6:45, maybe 7. If you don't work in Portland, if you don't work normal business hours on the Oregon side, you don't have to worry about it really. If you work over there, you're probably gonna have 45 minutes to an hour each way. So it is a little bit of time in the car. Another great question I get all the time is, are there lots of transplants in the area? People that have moved in from other states? Yes, there are. 10, 15, 20 years ago, there weren't. People moved around the country less, I feel. But now, especially post-COVID, people have more mobility with where they work, and we have lots of people from all different states, different beliefs, different politics, different religions, races, everything, and I feel like we're a beautiful melting pot of people that get together well, even though we have differences, and we really want to keep it that way. So if you're someone who's super begrudgingly, I find it's politics a lot of times, unfortunately, one way or the other, and you hate the other side, I don't know if we want you here. I'm just being honest. We want to get along with the people that live in our area, and at the end of the day, we still want people to come together. So I think that's a really beautiful thing about all of these transplants coming in and living here. Okay, I have 2 more questions on the list from you guys, so thanks for submitting these questions, and they're both about transportation. The first one is, do people here bike a lot? I would say people here don't bike a lot for transportation, right? They don't bike to their work or to their school a ton. There are definitely people that do that, but it's just more of a car-centered area. But people do like to bike for recreation. We have lots of nice nature paths and paved paths that you could ride a bike on for fun. There's one down by the Columbia River that's really beautiful. It's paved from the Vancouver waterfront to like McMinimum's, and that's really nice. The last question on my list is, what kind of public transportation is there? And like I just mentioned in the last question, there's not a ton of public transportation in here because we're very car-centric. We're very much a urban sprawl type of area, but don't think like as bad as Texas or Arizona where urban sprawl is really bad. Our public transportation here, the options are really the bus and like C-Tran, Call a Ride, but I think that's reserved for people who have special needs. So it's very limited. I would say you're not gonna last here long if you don't have a car. Whew, a lot of questions. You guys like my water bottle? Well, thank you everyone who submitted questions. If you have more questions about the area, we're happy to hear them. Please leave them down below in the comments, or if you want to ask them personally, text us, DM us, send us an email. And if you're thinking about moving to the area, of course, text us, email us, DM us. We love serving you guys, me and my team at Dubyne Realty Group, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.